since you brought up Kentucky, let's talk about that game a little bit, because with Kentucky, you take a look at them, their secondary is actually the strength of their defense. So I would expect you're going to see a lot of the running game with Luke Doty and Kevin Harris. And, I want to see a lot of pull and play. You know what I mean? I want to see a lot of RPO type game, run the football. I mean, you don't have the weapons outside. We all know that. Alex, I more so want to get your take, because I don't know if you've ever gotten bored one day and you've looked back at the history of the South Carolina Kentucky series. I don't know why anybody would do that except for me, because I'm insane. But looking back at when you look back at the games in Lexington, the point of it is, when you look back at the games in Lexington, South Carolina has always struggled. Like, even in the wins, if you go back and look, they've all been close. Like, Kentucky's one of those teams that I feel like Vandy was that way for a little bit. They always play you tough. Even when South Carolina was beating Kentucky every single year, the games have always been a struggle. And I know when you were there, the 24-17, they're all close games. They're all like touchdown games, 10-point games, whatever. Talk about your experiences against the Kentucky Wildcats, and specifically in Lexington. What do you remember about that series? Because, again, as a South Carolina fan, player, whatever, you go into that game expecting to win. And, again, you had that 5-game losing streak to Kentucky, which was flat out inexcusable. But the thing that worries me about that game is, historically, you've just been so bad in Lexington, and you see it now with the issues, the turmoil you have now. You open up as a 2-touchdown underdog, which, thank you, Will Muschamp, for that. You open up as a 2-touchdown underdog in Lexington. But I'm just curious to get your thoughts on that series, what you remember about going to Lexington and playing the Kentucky Wildcats.
I mean, honestly, nothing. I mean, they had the nicest visitors locker room at that time in the SEC.
Right.
So that was lovely. But, I mean, there's not really anything to it. I can't really explain why it would be closer there. I mean, historically, we've kind of played to our competition,
right?
Which, is a good thing when you're hanging around with Georgia and Florida and Tennessee, LSU, those guys. But, if you're the other side of that coin, is you end up hanging around the Kentucky's, Vanderbilts, and Wofords of the world. So I think that may have a lot to do with it. It's there, but I mean, from a memorability standpoint, there wasn't really much about like going to Lexington and playing there, other than it's Kentucky. The atmosphere is not going to be what it is at other SEC road games. So probably them and Vanderbilt are probably the low men on that totem pole from like from an atmosphere fan environment. But I mean, I think that kind of gives you a sense of that we just kind of play to. We just historically we've always played to our competition.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
If you figure that out,
get into the business of coaching.
That is solving an equation that we need to solve.
Yeah,
because it doesn't happen to Bama.
Yeah,
and too, probably a lot of it has to do with while we have been more successful than Kentucky has been, I think from a recruiting player development standpoint, until we hit that big run of the 11-2s, the recruiting was probably pretty close to what they were getting. And then from a facility standpoint, especially at that time, up until probably 3-4 years ago, the facilities were pretty similar too. So I think that kind of all factored into it, where they were better than their records would probably indicate on a year in and year out basis. So it was just probably more of an equivalent matchup than anybody really wanted to talk about, and that probably has a lot to do with it.